Challenge.
Call the member for Melbourne.
Thank you very much. Australia has good relations with Vietnam, and we have a particularly fond affection for our Vietnamese Australian community. Today, the Human Rights Subcommittee of Foreign Affairs heard from Voice, a local and international organisation that supports human rights in Vietnam. Things we take for granted here in Australia: freedom of religion, freedom of expression and freedom of assembly that are denied people in Vietnam, including the harassment of human rights defenders such as the heroic Minh An, who's here from Vietnam visiting the Parliament and sitting in the public gallery today. The committee must take up and the Parliament must take up the issues of Tran Huynh Duy Thuc, the entrepreneur who's been arrested, the blogger Nguyen Ngoc Nhu Kun, aka An Mei, the blogger who was convicted, and Quoc Duc Bin, the environmental and labour rights activist. We should use the new strategic partnership and TPP negotiations with Vietnam to leverage our rules-based order referred to in the joint statement to promote the rule of law, including the observance and implementation of international legal obligations in good faith. Vietnam's new cybersecurity law has been found to have violated certain provisions of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership that Minister Tran Tuan An signed with Stephen Chobo on the 8th of March 2018, and there have been demonstrations all over Vietnam about that in recent days. DFAT should support local human rights defenders like Minh An and many others by meeting them regularly and working with other embassies in Hanoi to ensure that the authorities' travel ban against them is lifted and arbitrary arrests and assaults against human rights defenders are promptly reported. We should request an update on their specific support for DFAT's specific support for financial support for registered and unregistered civil organisations and how they contribute to the development of independent civil society in Vietnam. Australia should do like other countries and support NGOs that are not registered by the Vietnamese government, because of course those organisations are used to perpetuate the current system, unlike unregistered civil society organisations. Above all, we should support the passing of a global Magnitsky Act in Australia to punish individuals and entities committing gross violations of human rights and use it as a terror factor in the future. And I warn the Vietnamese government that if they continue to persecute people in Vietnam, this legislation, the Global Magnitsky Act, is more likely to be passed here in Australia because of their violations of human rights in Vietnam. A Global Magnitsky Act will see them not so easily able to come to Australia, not to travel to Australia, not to invest their funds in Australia, and not to send their children to be educated in Australia.